Sam's Top 10.
To celebrate the recent release of Injustice 2 and the impending release of Tekken 7, I thought it'd be fun to do a top 10 list of my favourite fighting games. I adore, respect, and own a worrying number of fighting games, despite my own admission that I suck at them. Choosing just 10 wasn't an easy task in any way, shape, or form, but I think I've just about managed it. Now, the list does have two simple rules. Number 1, it has to be a game I've actually played, otherwise I'd just be talking out of my arse. And number 2, one game per franchise. With that, let's kick off.
Number 10.
Oh man, am I gonna get some grief from SNK fans for putting this so low on the list. This was the first King of Fighters games I actually got to play after picking it up dirt cheap in a PSN sale. I'll admit I regretted leaving it so long because I really enjoyed it. 3-on-3 fighting, gorgeous pixel art, seriously, hot damn. An interesting cast, and wonderful pacing to the battles themselves drew me in. It's a beautiful and wonderfully balanced fighter that I'd highly recommend, and now I'm interested in checking out the earlier entries. It's not any higher on this list because I've not spent as much time with it as I'd like, and due to not having had many couch multiplayer sessions with it, I don't have any fond memories associated with it either.
Number 9.
I should just accept that I'm going to upset people with this list. I never got along with Mortal Kombat as a kid. I found the control system to be clunky, stiff, and needlessly frustrating. That all changed with 2011's Mortal Kombat, which some people refer to as MK9. Something really clicked with this reboot. I tore through story mode learning the characters, well, up until Shao Kahn kicked my ass anyway. I played some multiplayer with friends, and I actually found myself having a really good time with it. I especially loved the little touches, such as how fighters get cut up with torn clothing as they take damage, and the visceral, satisfying, yet easy to pull off X-ray moves. Icing on the cake. The complete edition with all of the DLC goes for around £1 to £2 in every Steam sale, so do yourself a favour and grab a copy.
Number 8!
Look, a Dragon Ball game was inevitably going to wind up on this list. The question was simply which one. I settled on Budokai 3 simply because I spent so much time with it. I beat every mode, got every character's breakthrough capsule, a time-consuming task, seriously, look it up, and wore out multiple controllers battling my brother. It's a very basic fighting game with relatively shallow mechanics, to the point that all of the fighters have the same command inputs. Yet it manages to capture the spirit of the insane fights in the show, while looking amazing in its cel-shaded glory. Normally, this wouldn't be able to place above KOF or MK, but nostalgia's admittedly giving it one hell of a boost. And doing this list reminded me I must get the HD re-release sometime. Some people would go for Infinite World, which is basically Budokai 3 but with a couple more characters. However, that game's story mode minigames got on my nerves, and they removed Beam Struggles, Burst Mode, and Dragon Rush. Deal breakers in my eyes.
Number 7!
The original Capcom vs SNK, Millennium Fight 2000, was my first introduction to SNK's roster of fighters, and this sequel quickly became one of my favourites. Team-based fighting, again, some beautiful pixel art, again, and a lovely flow of combat, again. This is essentially everything I praised King of Fighters 13 for, albeit slightly rougher around the edges, only with the addition of characters and movesets I recognised and associated fond memories from gaming nights gone by. This game seems to be going dirt cheap all the time, so do yourself a favour and pick it up.
Number 6!
Shut up, it totally counts. Super Smash Bros. Offers frantic pick-up-and-play multiplayer that simply can't be beaten at a party. It doesn't matter what your experience level is, anyone can join in, quickly get to grips with the game, and have fun. Of course, there's a more serious side to it as well, with it still featuring heavily in fighting game tournaments with cash prizes, despite having had sequels since its release over 16 years ago. Casual or hardcore, everyone seems to agree that Melee is the best title the franchise has to offer.
Number 5.
This was a hard decision. The Tekken series is a staple of the genre. Tekken 3 was among the best brawlers of its day, Tekken Tag Tournament had a huge roster and the infamous Tekken Bowling, but Tekken Tag Tournament 2 eventually won out for me. Having each face button correspond to a character's limbs makes controlling a battle in any Tekken game feel intuitive in a way that was previously unprecedented. It means anyone, regardless of their experience, can step on up to the plate and give this series a try. Tag Tournament 2 specifically benefits from gorgeous graphics, 2-on-2 tag team battles, yeah, I like multiple fighters, and the ability to customize your favorite characters. This game is great. One of the only downsides is that since its release, I've not put anywhere near as many hours into it as it deserves. Couch multiplayer sessions really died down after university, so the game doesn't get pulled off the shelf that often, but when it does, I'm guaranteed a good time.
Number 4!
One of the games that inspired the list in the first place. Take the instantly recognizable superheroes of DC Comics, pit them against each other, and enjoy the sheer chaos that unfolds. I'm astounded by the sheer amount of content in this game. There are a ton of modes, including an in-depth story mode with multiple endings, a multiverse mode that constantly gives you new challenges, sometimes by the hour, and your traditional versus modes, to name but a few. I'll admit the loot box system and earnable gear gets its claws in deep very early on, but the crates are insanely easy to earn through natural and legitimate gameplay. The microtransactions are truly optional, which I rarely get to say. Trust me, you'll be doing a lot of that gameplay as well, simply because the game feels amazing to play. It's slick, smooth, responsive. Get this game.
Number 3!
Few game series have a legacy that rivals Street Fighter's, and picking the best game from the long-running franchise is near impossible, but in the end I had to give it to Ultra Street Fighter 4. The most recent iteration I own is Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, but having played Ultra I have to admit its additional content and balance tweaks makes it the definitive version of Street Fighter 4. I even prefer 4 over 5. It has a larger roster, a better variety of modes, and I think the ink aesthetic gives it a stronger presentation. That said, 5 is still being updated, and is receiving new content as we speak, so who knows how that might change in the future.
Number 2!
This classic weapons-based fighter is a firm favourite of mine. It got to a point where a small group of my friends had played each other so often our battles looked like choreographed action sequences from a kung fu movie. Having weapons-based combat led to some unique fighting styles that you just don't see elsewhere. How a character's armed gives you an immediate sense of their strength, speed, and reach. It undeniably adds a level of depth to the game, as you're making far more considerations over your approach to each fight than you would in a bare-handed brawler. Soul Calibur 2's even superior to its sequels. So much so it got a HD online-enabled re-release for PS3 and Xbox 360. Graphically, it still looks great even to this day, and it's got a superb fluidity of movement that I've just not seen anywhere else. The animation work is simply outstanding. This title's a classic and it needs to be in your collection.
Number 1!
Let's refresh what we've learned so far. In my fighting games, I like to see a varied roster, lovely pixel art, smooth animations, crossovers, tag teams of up to 3 fighters, fast and frantic pacing, and local multiplayer. Knowing that, is it any surprise that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 comes top of this list? This is one of my if you were stranded on a desert island games. I could seriously play this for days on end and not get tired of it. Yeah, it's poorly balanced, some characters are cheap as all hell, and the online modes for the PS3 and 360 versions were filled with Magneto, Storm, and Sentinel, but none of that matters to me when I'm having this much bombastic fun with the most expansive, diverse, and interesting roster I've ever seen. I feel like I should say more, it's my number 1 pick, but I feel like the enthusiasm I've put into that short pitch does the job. I've played this on Dreamcast, original Xbox, PlayStation 2, PS3, and Xbox 360. I own almost every version available. I have very high hopes for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and yeah, this is my all-time favourite fighting game. If you come around my house, we will end up playing this at some point. It's inevitable. So those are my top 10 favourite fighting games released so far. Who knows, with what's coming out in the next few years, the list might need to be updated at some point down the road. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you very soon.